For Comedy Hype News, I'm Terrence Sims. In the 90s, if you were asked who the biggest comedy star was, a case could be made for Mike Meyers. He captured audiences on a weekly basis on Saturday Night Live and even won an Emmy for his work on the show. While on the show, he made a movie based on one of the characters he created. That film will go on to become one of the highest grossing movies the year it was released and currently remains the highest grossing movie based on a SNL sketch. Meyers built on that success with the start of another franchise, Austin Powers. Austin Powers would catapult Mike Meyers to new heights. The franchise's 3 movies would go on to make a combined $675 million at the box office, solidifying Meyers as a comedic force, not to mention his 4 MTV Movie Awards that came from Wayne's World and Austin Powers movies. After a successful decade, Meyers brought in the 2000s with the start of yet another franchise, Shrek. The streak that Meyers was on was incredible. However, it appears Meyers' luck would run out with the animated films. As Shrek was taking off, Meyers' live action roles would receive poor reviews and tank at the box office. A complete 180-degree turn from what was going on a decade earlier, Mike Meyers' roles would dry up after the final Shrek movie in 2010, and Hollywood hasn't seen much of him since. Here's why Mike Meyers disappeared from Hollywood. In 1989, Mike Meyers made his SNL debut as a featured performer after spending years learning the craft of improvisational comedy at the Second City Toronto branch. It wasn't long before he was added to the show's main cast. There, he created standout characters like Dieter from Sprockets, Linda Richmond, the Coffee Talk host, and Wayne Campbell of Wayne's World. The versatility of his characters was amazing to see, as fans quickly gravitated towards the new cast member. The Wayne Campbell character was curated by Meyers, and he would bring the character to Second City and eventually Saturday Night Live. Dana Carvey was cast as Wayne's best friend, Garth, as it wasn't long before Wayne's World had become one of SNL's most popular recurring sketches. Audiences enjoyed them so much that Lorne Michaels decided the sketch could be developed into so much more, which led to the film Wayne's World in 1992. During the making of the film, it was evident that Wayne's World was Meyers' passion project, as he often slowed production down with demands. At one point, Meyers even threatened to walk away from the film if the song Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen wasn't used in what would become one of the film's most memorable scenes. Other arguments Meyers was involved in was with the director about locations and even going back and forth trying to one-up his co-star, Dana Carvey. It's not like they butted heads or argued a lot or anything, but I'll tell you what they did, and Lorne teaches all of his people to do this, and that is compete with each other. Lorne loves, I don't care if you quote me, I'm getting too old for this shit, to have people argue and try to please him, and compete with each other to the point where someone's in tears. Wayne's World was released in February of 1992 and was a huge success, critically and commercially. The film spawned a sequel that was released a year later in December of 1993, but did not match up to the first movie's success. Wayne's World has grossed more than $183 million on a $20 million budget, while the sequel only made $48 million from a $40 million budget. The sequel received mixed reviews compared to the first film's acclaim. The same year Wayne's World 2 was released, Meyers appeared in the film So I Married an Axe Murderer. Meyers' reputation of someone who was difficult to work with will continue with this project. According to Spin, fresh off the success of Wayne's World, it was reported that Meyers used this leverage to change the tone of the script into a broader comedy with more silly voices, sight gags, and characters in an attempt to have more mainstream appeal. Meyers rewrote the script with his writing partner, Neil Malarkey. The story and some of the comedic moments in the script were changed, and the original writer of the film, Robbie Fox, was asked to go with a story by and a co-screenplay credit, a proposal that he rejected. As a response, the Writers Guild of America decided that Fox was going to receive sole writing credit for the movie. Producer Robert N. Freed and Meyers were upset that Malarkey wouldn't receive any credit, despite putting so much work into the script. The film's director, Thomas Shalami, said that he had his own differences with Meyers over how the film should be shaped. He said that Meyers was taking a stretch beyond his unusual self and was playing outside himself. Personality clashes were bound to happen. We struggled. But Shalami denied that Meyers was a control freak and praised the total commitment to his work. The film fell behind its shooting schedule, which caused Meyers to miss several Saturday Night Live tapings. Overall, the film did not perform well and received mixed reviews. Meyers' stint as a cast member on the SNL came to an end in 1995, and he took a 2-year hiatus from performing. Instead, focused on the development of his next character, Austin Powers. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, was released in May 1997 and made $67 million from a $16.5 million budget. Austin Powers would become Meyers' most beloved characters, as the film spawned 2 sequels. The 1999 sequel would make over $300 million, while the third film would hit $296 million. A 4th Austin Powers film has been rumored since Goldmember hit theaters in 2002. With all the success Meyers was having, he got the chance to adapt his other popular SNL sketches into feature films. His Coffee Talk movie was quickly turned down, so that resulted in him writing the script for SNL's black turtleneck-wearing host of the West German talk show, Sprockets, entitled Theater. The movie was set to film during the summer of 2000 with first-time director Bo Welch, producers Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, and actors Will Ferrell, Jack Black, and David Hasselhoff signed on, and millions spent on the pre-production costs. Meyers, unhappy with the script, which he co-wrote, backed out of the project and relinquished his $20 million salary, causing Howard and Grazer's company, Image Entertainment, and Universal Studios to hit him with 2 multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Meyers filed a countersuit and said the studio was trying to rush him into filming a fundamentally flawed script, and that he didn't want to cheat moviegoers who paid their hard-earned money to see his work. A settlement was reached several months later. In 2001, Meyers was cast in the groundbreaking DreamWorks animated comedy Shrek, succeeding fellow SNL alumni Chris Farley, who was initially hired to voice Shrek, but died before completing the project. In typical Meyers fashion, after he had completed his voiceovers, he actually re-recorded all his lines with a Scottish accent, like the one his mother used when she told him bedtime stories and he used for his roles in other movies. After hearing the alternative, producer Jeffrey Katzenberg agreed to record the scenes in the film, saying, "It was so good we took $4 million worth of animation out and did it again." A point Meyers later disputed, saying, "It didn't cost the studio millions of dollars, as rumored. What it meant is instead of me going in for 10 sessions, I went in for 20 sessions. I got paid the same. I got a letter from Spielberg thanking me so much for caring about the character." And he said the Scottish accent had improved the movie. 2 years later, Meyers agreed to star in 2003's The Cat in the Hat for Universal, which led many to believe it was part of his earlier settlement with the studio, but producers Brian Grazer denied the allegations. The movie was critically panned for the screenplay, humor, lack of faithfulness to the source material, and Meyers' portrayal of the title character. The bad reception led to Dr. Seuss's widow, Audrey Geisel, to not allow any further live-action adaptations of her husband's work, resulting in the cancellation of a planned sequel based on the book's follow-up, The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. According to the co-star Amy Hill, Meyers was difficult to work with on set, refusing to talk to anyone on the production other than the director Welch, and completely isolating himself from the cast and crew during the breaks in the filming. She also noted that the film ended up having long and pointless retakes of scenes because Meyers overruled Welch on whether they were good or not good. By this time in his career, Meyers' reputation started to catch up with him. As he would begin to appear on screen less and less, after The Cat in the Hat, Meyers lended his voice in Shrek 2 and Shrek the Third. 2008 saw the release of another film starring Meyers from a concept of his own, The Love Guru. Tells the story of Guru Pitka, played by Meyers, who is tasked with revitalizing the hockey team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and its star player, played by Justin Timberlake. The film was a financial flop and was universally panned by critics, with some even calling it the movie that killed the career of Mike Myers. The film grossed $32.2 million in the United States and Canada, an additional $8.7 million overseas, for a total of $40.8 million worldwide, against its $62 million budget. The Love Guru would be Meyers' last film as a leading man. Following its release, Meyers' next major project was Shrek Forever, after in 2010. In 2012, he appeared in a short film opposite of Kevin Kline, which he co-wrote. 2013 saw the release of a documentary that would serve as his directorial debut. In 2015, it looked like Meyers was going to make a return to television, which would have been his first regular role since leaving SNL, nearly 20 years prior. However, it was reported that he opted out of the contract because his production deal never led to an order of a series. In 2018, Meyers would come back to film with supporting roles in Terminal and Bohemian Rhapsody. In a 2014 GQ interview, Meyers revealed a reason as to why audiences haven't seen him. "Every time I make a movie, it's usually 3 or 4 years between. I write most of what I do and create most of what I do. I have 4 or 5 creations in my head right now. In fact, that actually takes the longest time, just to sort of figure out which one is the appealing to you. And then it takes a long time to write them. On top of that, I also love to take time off. As hot as Mike Myers was in the 90s, one would assume that Hollywood would always knock on his door. However, that wasn't the case. In the same interview, Myers revealed that he doesn't get too many offers. I never get offered anything. I've never been offered anything. I've never been on lists where I've been offered anything. Since 1991, I have received 15 scripts. I'm just not that guy. I never will be that guy. In 2017, Myers briefly came out of retirement to host a reboot of The Gong Show, which lasted one season. Myers' absence from the screen can also be attributed to his dedication as a father and husband. Myers married his second wife, Kelly Tisdale, in 2010, and they have 3 children, born in 2011, 2014, and 2015. Throughout his career, Mike Myers' live-action movies earned over $1 billion at the box office. The Shrek franchise has added another $3 billion to that total. The number of actors that have reached this accomplishment are few to none. As much star power as Mike Myers had in the industry, his reputation behind the scenes wasn't even enough to ensure his longevity. This, in addition to his dedication to his family and his tendencies to turn down projects he didn't feel were right or what caused Mike Myers to take a break from Hollywood. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel and follow Comedy Hype across all social media. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Terrence Sims.